even if you didn't, you still learned a lot. You created great connections. You basically were active in the early days of the internet. You probably could do a new project 10 years later with all your new connections. You probably could still be one of the top experts in the world when it comes to the internet, security, web protocols. I mean, the opportunities are endless.
So, hello and welcome, DeFiTimes community, to yet another episode of DeFiTimes Daily. Today is a very special day because we have him on the show, Ivan on Tech. Hey man, how are you doing?
Very good, guys. Thanks a lot for the invite and the good work on the podcast. Very, very good to be here.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's so amazing to have you on the show because Fabi and me, we were watching Good Morning Crypto every single day last summer.
Perfect.
Yeah, this was basically our morning routine, like getting up and we said, okay, now he's live, let's go. And yeah, but your focus changed a little bit. So what are you working on right now?
Well, I come from a development background and I've always been a developer. And one of the things that we noticed, my team and I, is that the current tools that blockchain developers are using are very primitive, which means that just to get started and build something, that users can use and you can have some transactions going, it's a lot of work. You have to set up infrastructure, you have to set up a backend infrastructure, connect APIs, sync blockchain, index blockchain, and so on and so forth. And that's where we saw an opportunity to build a tool that allows this to be way smoother. And that's what Moralis is, which is basically infrastructure for dApps, where we have all of the common use cases, all of the common features, like, for example, transactions, historical transactions, how to do easy DeFi access through your dApp without you having to run your own server. That's the most important thing. How to basically take the information from the blockchain that is really needed, that is impossible to get without your own infrastructure today, and we give it to you on a silver plate, and most importantly, cross-chain. So this is why for the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, my focus has shifted a lot because we're building this company and is growing a lot, which is a lot of challenges, but we love it because it's so fantastic journey. And it's also being well adopted way quicker than we expected, at least, because this pain point the developers have is huge. And to develop a blockchain app today, it should be as easy as doing a website, but it's not. But we're trying to make that, when you want to build a dApp, it should be as easy as doing a website. So that's my focus right now. And it's good to hear, guys, that you watch Good Morning Crypto. It was good times, especially last summer. It was crazy with all of the things mooning, and there was a lot of opportunities last summer. But of course, times are changing. And in this kind of environment, especially with the markets, my interest now is mostly on development, because it doesn't matter how great of altcoin picker you are. If the market is not going up, the market is not going up. And that's why for the long term, for everyone involved, it's way better to get involved with some kind of project, either build yourself or join some project. Whoever you are, what skills you have, I'm sure there's a project that needs it, because that's long term. And then hopefully we can get another crazy altcoin summer. That would be fantastic for the short term. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, DeFi Summer 2020 was pretty insane. So we all enjoyed it. And
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was hype, but now it's time, especially when the prices go down, like we see today, it's time for building, it's time for building stuff and connecting and getting your name out there, basically. And the main topic of today is obviously your new project, Moralis. And before we dive deeper into how Moralis works in technical detail, some of our listeners are non-technical people. And for the people that are not very technical, could you explain in simple terms which problems Moralis solves and precisely how Moralis works from a broad perspective?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to compare to Windows, the operating system. Before Windows, you have to build your PC application for specific hardware. You have to build your PC application for specific RAM, CPU, hard drive. You have to figure out how to speak with your printer yourself. You have to figure out how to speak with your monitor yourself. And then Windows came, where you don't have to care about anything. You just care about the user experience. You build your application, you build your Excel, how Excel app, or you build your game, or you build your chat app, whatever you do on the Windows operating system, you only care about what matters, which is how it looks, which button to press, where the user will enter something. You don't care about the underlying complexity of hardware, how it all speaks to each other. And it is not how blockchain works today. In order to build something on blockchain today, you have to choose, okay, are we building on Solana, on Ethereum, on Binance Chain? Are we using the tools that are present right now that are new, or should we use more established tools that have been here for a few years? And Moralis, what we're doing is that we're coming and we're saying, if you build on top of Moralis, you don't have to care. You build on top of Moralis, your app will work on Ethereum. It will also work on Solana. It will also work on Elrond. It will also work on Polkadot. If there's a new chain that comes soon, it will work automatically. You don't have to change anything. Just like if you build your app on Windows and there is a new hardware or CPU next month, you don't have to write your application for that. It just works plug and play automatic. And this is how we envision the blockchain space to be. And this is also something that accelerates this space, because when you have primitive tools, you can build primitive projects. If you have advanced tools, you can build advanced projects, because you get so much for free and you can focus on what actually matters, which is the user, the experience, what the user will do. And you don't have anxiety picking the correct tools. This is a problem that corporations have today in crypto. If you have a big company and they want to do something on Ethereum, it's a big risk, because what if Ethereum is not popular? What if Binance Chain is popular? Which we saw during the last few months, that how many projects moved from Ethereum to Binance Chain. And it's all happening within a few months. It's very, very difficult for big corporations to enter blockchain when it's so volatile and not stable. But when you have a base infrastructure, which is, for example, Moralis, that is built on top of all blockchains, kind of like middleware, is middleware on top of all blockchains that allows developers to build blockchain applications on Ethereum, but it also works on Binance and it also works everywhere else. And you as a developer, you have freedom to choose where you focus. And if there is new tech, it automatically works. Additionally, we have integrations and plugins, which means that if there is a new technology, some kind of new API, some kind of new library, it's all accessible through Moralis. You probably have used WordPress. When you build a website, you use WordPress. Well, sure. In WordPress, you have a bunch of plugins that make it very, very easy and fantastic to use WordPress today, even though the technology is maybe 30 years old. I don't know exactly how old, but probably it's 20, 30 years old. But WordPress is still interesting today. Why? Because of plugins. So we are building in the same direction, that we are middleware on top of all blockchains, but also you can plug and play with all kinds of other tools, other projects, and so on and so forth. So that's the next step for us that we're building, the plugin ecosystem. Because if we want blockchain to grow and go mainstream, you need to have good tools for developers. Because if developers spend 6 months to set up just so it works, so you can show something to the user for the first time, we will never go mainstream. The innovation cycles are too slow right now in crypto. So we hope to speed it up, because if we can speed up this from idea to market, the time from idea to market, then we have succeeded. And that's what we work on each and every day at Moralis.
Yeah, you mentioned so many awesome points here, and we will focus on them in a couple of minutes. But you mentioned developers, and developers are crucial, of course, obviously, for this industry. And let's talk a little bit about programming languages here, because I find this is one of the most interesting aspects about Moralis, because I have to admit that I've learned some JavaScript and Solidity in the academy. And personally, I found JavaScript a bit easier. However, the programming language of DeFi, especially of DeFi, is Solidity. And still many people are not familiar with Solidity. And that said, there's a huge demand for Solidity programmers, but just a very, very small market for that. And these people earn a lot of money. And this also hinders some projects from kicking off, because a Solidity programmer is very, very expensive. But with Moralis, Solidity is not necessarily required. So was this somehow the last missing piece of puzzle for mass adoption from a developer perspective? So drives this mass adoption significantly?
Well, in order to build DeFi, you don't necessarily need Solidity right now. So you have a lot of big applications like Etherscan. Etherscan is not a Solidity project, because Etherscan is all about reading information from the blockchain. If you look at an application such as, for example, Zerion, where you can see all your DeFi, or Zapper, you don't have to do your own smart contracts for that, because there you just read from the blockchain. And most blockchain development is not in Solidity smart contracts. Most applications that you and I use every day, they're mostly focused on reading from the blockchain. And that's very complicated. Reading from the blockchain is insanely complicated, because the way the blockchain infrastructure works, the actual nodes that have the information, they're not made to be used as databases. You cannot just ask a blockchain node about all the data you need. What you have to do normally is to, like I said, set up infrastructure, take out things from the node, index, filter it, make it nice so you can use it in your app. So that's what Moralis is doing. That if you have some kind of idea about an app, you can skip all of this. Reading from the blockchain is super easy. And that's where maybe 80% of the development time is spent today. It's reading, organizing data from the blockchain, calculating different things about the data. Let's say you have a wallet and you want to know your P&L, profit loss. Well, that's mostly looking in the blockchain, calculating it, giving you P&L. You want to trade? Well, you don't have to build your own smart contract. You just build an app. You can integrate with the current smart contracts like on Uniswap or 1inch. So I mean, most of the things you do in crypto today, you don't necessarily need your own smart contract. I would say that's 80% of the time right now spent on non-solidity part. So with Moralis, you still need the solidity part. If you want to build, for example, your totally new way, totally new way of transferring money, totally new way of, you still need that. But that's just 20% of the development time. So we're focusing on that big chunk, 80% development time, which is more building on top. Now that you have your solidity, how do you make it useful? And how do you make it usable for your developers that you have difficulty finding? And what we allow you to do is to take normal developers that are not from blockchain. You can take a normal web developer and they instantly know how to build on top of a smart contract. They instantly know how to build on top of the current code that is on the blockchain already. But yes, to add new code on the blockchain, you need solidity. And Moralis does not change that. But it's not the biggest pain point. The biggest pain point is everything around it. For solidity, in order to build it, you need very skilled people that know how it works. And for most projects, it's not something that is relevant. In most projects, you either take finished solidity code, like for example, PancakeSwap. If you look at the biggest dApps, they didn't invent anything. They, like PancakeSwap, it's just Uniswap. And then the biggest work with PancakeSwap is not the smart contract. It's to make it look nice, to add, nice UI, to make different charts, to make people be able to have these different, staking pools and stuff like that. But solidity is a small portion of that. So you still need solidity, but everything that is non-solidity, which is 80% of the work, that's where Moralis comes in. And that's where you basically get this very nice JavaScript library, one line of code for this, one line of code for that, easy and fast to build. And also Moralis allows for easy integration between smart contracts. So let's say that you want to use Aave or you want to use 1inch. In order to do that, you have to figure out which address they have on the blockchain, how to interact with the smart contract. With Moralis, it's one line of code in JavaScript. For example, 1inch.swap, and you can swap assets with one line of code. Anyone can do it. It's crazy because DeFi is really opening up so many doors. If you just know simple JavaScript, you can now trade any asset to any other asset on the blockchain without even knowing how blockchain works. So I would say that blockchain, it's kind of like programming very, very deep into if we are to draw parallels between the PC revolution and blockchain revolution. So solidity is kind of like building this, some kind of CPU code where you really program on maybe in the graphics space, it can be compared to a graphics shader where it's very, very low level code running close to the CPU. And you need professionals to do that. No question about that. But most work and most applications, they're above that. They don't need to care about exactly how that works under the hood. And that's what I compare to in the blockchain space, that 80% of the time is spent building on top of solidity, not creating new solidity smart contracts. So I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned earlier that Moralis is kind of like WordPress for the Web 2. And yes. Could you describe to our listeners, okay, let's imagine I'm a programmer who wants to build on Moralis. How do I start? Maybe talk us a little bit through the step-by-step process of what it looks like to use Moralis from a programmer perspective.
Yeah, we want to make it so that when you build blockchain applications, it is like you're building a website. So for example, if you go to our documentation, docs.moralis.io, and you go to crypto login tab and you read how to log in a user, you see it's just one line of code to log in a user with MetaMask or any other wallet. As soon as the user clicks login, you have all the information about that user on all blockchains instantly without any work. So you as a developer, you write one line of code and you have a wallet already. You can show all the dashboard about the user. And this is how simple it should be. But without Moralis, it's way more complicated where you need your own infrastructure for this. Or let's say that you want to calculate the tax for a user. You log in the user, and then you can easily as a plugin, add a tax plugin into Moralis, and then this plugin will calculate in real time all the taxes for users. It's just an example like of how a plugin could be used. Or let's say you want to log in a user and then you want to make them trade. So you want to show their assets and they can trade their assets. Well, perfect. With Moralis, it's one line of code to integrate 1inch as a plugin, and then you can trade whatever asset to whatever asset you want. So the power of blockchain is that it's all interoperable. So Moralis is the platform where all of these technologies work together. And what Moralis provides is a very, very simple way to log in users and get all of the information about the user and also new transactions about the user in real time when the user does something. And then based on that, you can connect a bunch of plugins. Like I said, like if you want trading plugin, you can use 1inch. You want a lending plugin, you can use Ava. You want to have some kind of yield farming, you can probably use Wire as well. And the interesting thing is that this community of plugins is now growing independently of us also, because people have their own ideas. They want to build their own plugins because the use cases are endless. So if you have some idea where you have your own, let's say you have your own project and you want all Moralis developers to be able to use it, you can easily write a plugin. So to summarize, from development perspective, it's all one line of code. Whatever you're thinking about is one line of code to get it done. And this means that, in 20, 30 lines of code, you can have a wallet, you can have NFT marketplace. And while it's easy, it also means that the use cases can be very complex as well. And I want to make it very clear. It's not some kind of, toy tool just for, beginners. This is industry grade, enterprise grade tool. But it makes all of these simple things that everyone needs in one line of code. And this simplicity is the magic that we're seeing, in people's eyes when they discover Moralis and they start building with it. And if they can build faster, this industry and this community will grow faster also.
Yeah, awesome. We definitely see how Moralis makes the life of every programmer in crypto a little bit easier, or significantly easier, better said. And there's one point you touched a couple of minutes before, interoperability, because this is the approach, what I love the most about Moralis, that if I'm a developer or an entrepreneur, I do not have to focus on one ecosystem. I can say, okay, let's build the application, and Moralis helps me to bring my application to each ecosystem. That said, yes. How do you view the future of crypto regarding this? More precisely, how interoperable will be the future of crypto? Because we had Pang Zong on the show very recently, the Tendermint CEO, and he claimed we will have millions of blockchains. What is your take on that?
I think it makes sense because already we're seeing that. We're seeing applications cross-chain. People want to use different applications on different chains, and there are different niches of blockchains. There's one blockchain only for Axie Infinity. I don't know if you guys used it, but this game Axie Infinity, they have their own version of Ethereum running network. It's amazing. And they have billions of dollars on that blockchain only in connection to their game. That's insane. And when we're speaking about the different use cases, it could very well be the fact that the different blockchains get very, very specialized, and they have their own use case, they have their own ecosystem, their own community, their own fan base. And that could very well be the case, that we don't have to scale Ethereum, for example, but instead we have this multi-chain approach. In many cases, it makes a lot of sense, because even when you scale Ethereum, it's not really interoperable 100%, like if you have two applications running on Ethereum. If one application on Ethereum is running and then you have another one on layer 2 solution on Ethereum, I mean, you need the bridge. It's not that seamless. It's kind of like that application is on a separate blockchain. So I think this is what we're seeing right now, and it makes a perfect sense. The market has shown that this is what it wants. Now, the market may change. We don't know what's going to be in the future, what kind of tech revolution we'll have, but multi-chain, it's very good, and the people know it. Most importantly, people right now are educated enough to go into their MetaMask and switch the chain. And that was a big question just a year ago, because most people did not even know how to use MetaMask. And so when people said, oh, we're going to build another blockchain, I mean, people don't even have MetaMask, and you want them to figure out how to switch the chain in MetaMask. That was far away. But this year it feels that, okay, now most people in DeFi, they know MetaMask. Otherwise, you're not in DeFi. And now most people in DeFi have also figured out how to switch the networks. So it's very easy for them to jump across networks. This is basically the scaling that we need right now. And also, here's where speculation comes in, because we discussed the DeFi summer. DeFi summer maybe is the best thing that happened to dApps, because it forced everyone to figure out what the hell is Uniswap. because all of the things that mooned, they were on Uniswap. And for someone to go and figure out MetaMask, private key, how to figure out how to store it, how to trade on Uniswap, how to ensure that your transaction does not get stuck, it's a huge learning curve. But the gains were, as you know, 10x, 50x, sometimes 100x. So it was worth it. So now we have thousands, tens of, maybe even hundreds of thousands of new users that know MetaMask. And that's huge for dApps. That's huge for mass adoption. So sometimes people, they're a bit negative towards speculation, but I say, look, speculation is great because it allows people to get these wallets and get this adoption that we need in DeFi. Otherwise, if there was no DeFi summer and no coins that went 100, 10, 100x, people would still just be using Binance. And all of this DeFi progress we've seen, it wouldn't be possible. So now I feel that it's very, very clear that at least now the market is moving towards multi-chain. Not that much layer 2 solutions, but more multi-chain. And layer 2s, they are their own chains. In many, look at Matic, is its own chain. ZK Sync is the one I'm looking most forward to now, but it's also probably going to be very much like its own chain. And then there's going to be some kind of bridge. So yeah, this is what we're seeing right now for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So DeFi Summer caused a lot of innovation because, you know, yes. FOMO is the ultimate driver of
is the ultimate teacher. Exactly.
Exactly, because people have to learn, otherwise they are missing out. You know? And that's why so many people, thousands of people learned about DeFi and got to know Ethereum, and then also learned about other stuff like Polygon or XDAI and stuff like that, and then went over to Binance Smart Chain. And now my question is, which chains are supported with Moralis today, and by which metrics do you assess if a chain is suitable to support it?
Our ambition is to support all chains. Right now we support Polygon, Binance Chain, and Ethereum. We're looking at Avalanche as next. We're also looking at ZK Sync. They will come in August. They should come. But we're looking at the activity. Is there activity? Is there no activity? Because when we adopt a chain, we have to support it long term. So we have to be careful a bit there, because sometimes you see hype and then the hype dies a bit and you don't know, was it a good choice or not? So right now we're looking, for example, at the recent layer 2 solutions like Arbitrum and Optimism. They've had a lot of hype. And now it's the question, will that hype still be here in 1 year, or it will be left behind? So that's why we're a bit careful exactly which we choose. But long term, our ambition is to support all of them. Solana is definitely very important, but it is very different from Ethereum, and Binance is completely different. So we're looking how to do it best. And we cannot just plug and play it with our current infrastructure. But in 2021, we hope to have Solana support. But all in all, the criteria is, are there big communities? Are there trading volumes? Are there people building? Is there actual demand? And if yes, then we don't even, we don't hesitate. Like with Avalanche, at this point, I think we're quite confident that we're going to have it. And we start first with, so Moralis has different kinds of services. So we have a service which is just nodes, like in Fura or Alchemy. You can connect to our nodes and you can use the nodes directly. And this one is very easy for us to do. And that's how we can feel, is there any demand for this blockchain among developers? Because if we add a node service and nobody's using that, okay, then we don't have to add like syncing and indexing and everything that Moralis really does on top. And then we just leave it at the node service. And if we see a lot of adoption, okay, then we can add all of the other APIs and libraries and make it super, super easy, like I described previously, where you basically get everything you need about the user with few lines of code. So that's a bit more expensive for us to do, and we do it if we see demand on the node service. But yeah, if you have any suggestions or ideas, feel free to reach me out on Twitter. And we will always look at different projects. We're looking in the Pulse chain now as well with Richard Hart. It's all about, can he get volume? Can he get dApps? But there could be, we will also start with the node service and then see if people switch. So we're curious always. And we're curious. Oh, another one, Neon on Solana. Is it going to be EVM on Solana? Also looking into that. Moonbeam on Polkadot, looking into that. So we're following everything. And we hope to do one per month, one new blockchain per month, which we add and support long term. Yeah.
Wow, a very ambitious approach here, and very interesting to see all these insights from the perspective of Moralis. But let us get back to the point of developers using Moralis actively. And we talked about it already. Moralis makes makes life easier for many programmers. So did you get some feedback already from developers who use Moralis on a regular basis?
Yeah, we've had great feedback. We've gone live in production mode in June, and already we have over 10,000 developers, a bit over 13,000 even to be exact. And the adoption has been crazy because this is what people have been waiting for and longing for: how to build dApp with few lines of, how can you build a copy of Etherscan with few lines of code that where you get, because the features are very basic that Etherscan has, for example. But it's not that easy to get it from the node if you just speak to the node. Yeah, it's a lot of infrastructure that you have to do and a lot of real-time infrastructure. So we want to give the same tools like Etherscan has to everyone. If you want to get all transactions for an address, one line of code. You want to get all real-time transactions for an address, one line of code. You want to get a specific smart contract information, one line of code for that. Or when you look at the NFT space, that's another huge problematic area. Because in the NFT space, nobody's following standards. What do you mean by that? In order to get metadata, meaning the image, the title, the description of an NFT, there's no standard. Everyone's doing it in their own way. I've seen, for example, Aavegotchi on Polygon, they have their metadata on-chain. So you have to go to the smart contract, you have to fetch the image from the blockchain. Some others put it on IPFS, some others put it on their own server, some others have different ways of getting the metadata depending on which token it is. And that's a problem. If you're building an NFT marketplace, you have to basically look at each NFT and figure out how you display it. With Moralis, they're all the same. We've unified. We've taken all this hard work and we've unified the interface for developers, so you get metadata from everywhere in the same way, and it's very easy, very fast. So it's some of the examples where developers spend months of building, testing, and then maintaining infrastructure. Because it's not just that you build. Building is okay. Maybe you can build in a month, maybe 2 months, but then okay, you have to test it, which means that you need to ensure that when you change your code in the future, that you don't mess up the code that you wrote right now. So you need to have constant testing. And then number 3, maintaining. What if something broke that you built up on? You relied on some kind of library, it doesn't work. You relied on some kind of service, it doesn't work anymore. So it's a lot of work that developers have to do now. So we've seen great feedback from many different use cases and directions.
Yeah, nice, man. And now let's get to maybe the most important question, at least for me, of this whole interview. What's your long-term vision for Moralis? So where do you see like the role of Moralis in the crypto ecosystem in the long term, considering all the changes, you know, that are going to happen in crypto, considering everything that's going to change in the next 5 years, which at least, I mean, nobody knows what's going to change, but where do you see Moralis in, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, we hope to build a platform that enables developers to go to market fast, no matter the blockchain, no matter the technology they want to use. It's all easy with Moralis. It's industry standard for doing things quickly. And I think there's going to be a lot of different tools that are going to be here in a few months, a few years, because there is so much building going on, and it's fantastic. And I think the best thing for Moralis would be to interoperate with all of them. For example, right now we interoperate with a lot of different APIs, a lot of different plugins that do maybe similar things that we do, but in their own way. So for example, there are different projects that also can get you historic transactions and also can get you metadata. And it's fantastic because we can interoperate, because they do things kind of like us, but also a bit differently. And we want the developers to have the ability to choose. And we have no ambition to implement each and every API or each and every feature, or, you know, code each and every idea into Moralis, because that's unsustainable. There's a new idea for a new tool each and every day somebody is doing. And also some people are interested in some things, other people are interested in other things. So for us, the most important thing is that we allow all of this great tech to interoperate easily. You have this API there, you have that API there. How do you make them talk together? And how do you allow your user data to be used, and how you can use these tools on your user set? That is our ambition. So yeah, we want to be the standard for basing your dApp, and where you can connect different technologies together and you can go to market quickly, no matter the blockchain.
Very interesting. And we just touched the future of Moralis, and let's talk a little bit about the future of the crypto industry, because A lot of newcomers are listening to you and watching your videos. But what I experienced is that many retailers are super confused, because I always talk to my friends about ERP 1559 and Optimus, and I'm super excited, but they just watch the chart and say, hey, crypto is over, man. And yeah, I think many people are very confused, like people who entered the market 2 or 3 months ago. So how do you view the crypto industry from a fundamental perspective, and on what are you most excited about, apart from Moralis, of course?
Crypto will grow 100x in the next few years, no question about that. And it's about the projects, the adoption, probably the prices also, although nobody knows. But the most important thing, when somebody enters crypto, there is not a lot we can do to make them understand if they don't actually get involved. If somebody is here just for the easy gains, quick money, it will never work. And I'm not even trying to convince them, because they will come, they will leave. If you're here just for that, there are times for that, like the last DeFi summer. I hope you watched Good Morning Crypto at that point. But if let's say the prices now go down and you're not excited, I don't know what we can do. Probably we cannot do a lot. But for all of them who are interested in crypto from the perspective that crypto is kind of like internet in the 90s, which means that whatever you did in the internet space in the 90s, it paid off massively. Whether you started a company, even if it didn't become huge and you didn't make money selling it or IPOing it, which was a good chance, but even if you didn't, you still learned a lot. You created great connections. You basically were active in the early days of the internet. You probably could do a new project 10 years later with all your new connections. You probably could still be one of the top experts in the world when it comes to the internet, security, web protocols. I mean, the opportunities are endless. So whatever you do in crypto, doesn't matter. It will pay off massively, whether it's content, whether it's tech, marketing, legal. Legal is huge. I mean, everything is a gray area in crypto in many cases when it comes to trading, when it comes to DeFi. Is it a gray area? Absolutely. When it comes to these derivatives, is it taxes in many countries? Great. How do you tax NFT games? I don't know. Professionals hopefully know. And we all rely on them, that they know what they're doing. And right now there are not a lot of them, so you really have to find the good ones that know. And if you are a tax professional, for example, be a tax professional in crypto. You don't have to be a developer to be full-time crypto and to be world best at something in crypto. Because that's the thing, in crypto, you spend 6 months learning, you are world best. Let's say you are a marketer. Spend 6 months learning crypto, you're world best marketer. How can you be world best marketer in search engine space? It's impossible. Everyone and their grandma thinks they are a search engine guru. They watch some kind of SEO drop shipping course where like it's too common. Okay, don't do that. Do something where nobody cares, like in crypto, because still most people think it's some kind of scam. Still most people think that this is not going to go anywhere. And that's what I love about crypto, that whatever you do, you can be at least top 10 in the world in the next few months if you truly put your mind into it. How crazy is that? It is crazy.
I like the comparison which you made. Like crypto is like the internet in like it's like getting back like 20 years in the past. It's like
yes.
It's like the .com bubble, which we are going to go through all over again. And that was so easy to make money back then, because I mean, you just bought a random domain name and it went up in value.
But see, people didn't. But people, it's very rare, that somebody bought a domain name and they sold. It's rare. It's rare. And the same thing when people bought some stock and it moved and they, number one, didn't sell too early, because most people, they do 2x, they sell, they're very happy, and then it goes 100x. The same in crypto, by the way. And people who did not sell too late, because of course then it's very few people. And we don't want easy money. That's the thing. We don't want it quick. We want wealth. That's the thing. We want wealth. What is wealth? It's you build a company in the 90s. Man, that's wealth. If you build your connections in the 90s and you know the top guys in the insurance space, that's wealth. That's why I love interviewing people on my channel. And that's also good what you guys are doing. I mean, imagine in the 70s or 80s, I don't know exactly when, but imagine when Microsoft was new and Apple was new. I mean, it was a community of guys in Silicon Valley. It wasn't this, huge. You can easily meet all of them because it's new. Nobody knows whether this, operating system thing will even be needed, whether computers will even be needed. I mean, that's where we are in crypto. It's quite easy still to network with the best guys and to do something in the space where you are connected. You do something, and we are still on that in that time. So that's what I love about crypto, that it's for long-term wealth. And wealth, it's of course it can be funds, but it can also be your connections, your wealth in the space that you can access people. You have idea, you instantly have ways to propagate it. I mean, that's also wealth, and that I mean, that's the big thing. And too many people, they try to, like with DeFi Summer, it's fantastic that it moved so hard and so quickly, but for most people, that's not the big opportunity. The big opportunity, it is building something or being part of some kind of project. I mean, that's big.
Yeah, definitely. And I just remember one sentence of one thought piece, better said, you shared in a Good Morning Crypto live stream back in DeFi Summer 2020, actually. You said, if you can code, go and work for some crypto projects. And if not, go and write something, create any kind of content. Yeah, and this was basically how DeFi times emerged then. So yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that's an interesting side story. But anyway, I think many listeners are now interested in using Moralis and follow you and engage with your community. So what are good hop-off points to engage with your community and to learn more about Moralis?
Well, if you are a developer, go to moralis.io and you can start building dApps quickly. If you want to follow on YouTube, it's Ivan on Tech. You can find easily. And also Moralis has YouTube as well. Twitter, Ivan on Tech, everywhere. You will find me.
Perfect, man. Ivan, it's getting late in Stockholm. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show, and I wish you a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, guys. A pleasure.